Hello and welcome to the MyVA Dayton Podcast, coming to you from Dayton, Ohio. This is the show where we talk with veterans in the Western Ohio region to share their stories and share what's happening at the Dayton VA Medical Center. I'm Scott Leese, your host, with co-host Greg Tucker. And we have with us today a veteran from the Dayton area, United States Marine Corps veteran Jeffrey Henderson. He entered the military in the summer of 2000, right after graduating from Beaver Creek High School. After graduating from boot camp at Parris Island, Jeffrey began his service as a rifleman with the 3rd Battalion, 2nd Marines. During Jeffrey's enlistment, he served in Iraq, Afghanistan, Japan, and Africa. After multiple combat deployments, Jeffrey decided to leave the military and pursue his civilian education. Once out of the military, he saw how many veterans struggled with life after military service, and Jeffrey made it his goal to do whatever he could to help. Jeffrey began his career as a County Veteran Service Officer in 2011 with the Clark County Veterans Office. After several years there, he took a position with the Greene County Veterans Office to be closer to home. Great to see you here today, Jeffrey.
Thank you very much for having me.
We are so thrilled to have you with us today. Before we get to know more about you, though, we're going to put you to the test. That's right, it's time to play Don't Tell Me I Think I Know That. This is the game where we put our guests to the test of their knowledge of military trivia. A game where listeners can play along to see if their minds are mired in mounds of military minutia as ours are. Are you ready to take this challenge, Jeffrey?
Absolutely.
All right, I think you're going to do great. So here's your first question. Where is the oldest Marine Corps base in the United States? Would it be at A, Camp Lejeune, B, Camp Pendleton, C, Camp Swab, or D, Camp Quantico?
Let's say Camp Pendleton.
That's correct. Known as the 1st Marine Division, is the oldest, largest, and most decorated Marine Division, headquartered at Camp Pendleton, California. Now here's your second question. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, what is this song? Would it be A, Marine's Birthday Song, B, Marine's Victory Cry, C, Marine's Hymn, or D, Ready to Fight Battle Hymn?
It's going to be the Marines Hymn.
That is correct. You're doing great. The Marines Hymn is the official hymn of the United States Marine Corps, introduced by the first director of the U.S. Marine Corps Band, Francisco Maria Scala. Its music originated from an 1867 work by Jacques Offenbach, with the lyrics added by an anonymous author at an unknown time in the following years. Authorized by the commander of the Marine Corps in 1929, is the oldest official song in the United States Armed Forces. The Marines Hymn is typically sung at the position of attention as a gesture of respect. However, the third verse is also used as a toast during formal events such as the birthday ball and other ceremonies. Now, here's your final question. You're doing great. Let's see if you get 3 for 3 in this now. Who was the first commissioned officer in the U.S. Marines? Would it be A, Captain Rusty Rowe, B, Captain Sean Carboni, C, Lieutenant Frank Hill, or D, Major Samuel Nicholas? Would it be
Major Samuel Nichols?
That's right. A portrait of Major Samuel Nicholas, the first commandant of the Marine Corps in 1775. The 2 battalions of the Continental Marines officially became resolved when Congress issued the first commission to Captain Samuel Nicholas on 28 November 1775. So, Greg, what has he won today for playing our game?
For answering all those questions correctly, we have a set of 4 Dayton VA industrial strength chip clips designed by NASA's aerospace engineers to keep your chips crisp on your next stellar space journey or wherever you may be traveling in the near future. All compliments of the Dayton VA.
So congratulations, Jeffrey. I hope you really enjoy those chip clips. I bet you've never seen those before.
No, I will cherish them.
That's great. Okay, so we're going to take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll hear more from Jeffrey about what he's doing with Greene County area.
Our veterans put everything on the line to protect our freedom. We may never be able to repay them for their sacrifice, but we can show them just how much we appreciate all they've done. Every day, hundreds of people just like you volunteer to help our veterans. You can help by simply sharing your time, lending a warm smile, a supportive hand, or a sympathetic ear to someone who needs it. Everyone can do something to make our veterans know how much we appreciate their service. What will you do?
The Dayton VA changed my life. There was a time I was jobless and homeless, didn't know where to turn for help. I felt like there was no hope for me. Then I learned about the Dayton VA. They helped me find the help I needed to get back on track. I received support, got a job, found a place to live. I got my life back.
Don't wait another day to see how the VA may help you.
I'm a vet, and it's my VA. Make it your VA today.
To enroll, call 937-268-6511, extension 5336, or visit dayton.va.gov.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Veteran service organizations, often known as VSOs, offer many services for veterans and their families. To learn more, go to va.gov.
And now we're back with Marine Corps veteran Jeffrey Henderson. So, Jeffrey, tell us, what inspired you to volunteer with the Marines?
Well, always kind of wanted to help people growing up. And one of the events we had at school, an actual Marine showed up to the school in full dress uniform. When I saw that, I was like, oh, I really like that uniform.
They look sharp, especially out of all the services. I think the sharpest looking guys are the Marines in their snappy uniform.
Yeah, it kind of was the driving force, honestly, with that. And through a turn of fate, I was actually going to join the Army, and through just a weird twist of fate, it worked out that I ended up coming back to the Marines, and that's history.
You were hooked.
Yep.
All right. Well, so did you just automatically follow the recruiter to the recruiting station after that, or what?
Kind of. Well, it was so again, I was supposed to join the Army, and through just a scheduling conflict and everything else, my recruiter actually never showed up. So I ended up was kind of up at the recruiting station waiting for somebody to show up, and nobody was there. And the Marine recruiter just happened to be there.
You lose.
Said, "Hey, can I talk to you for a minute?" I said, absolutely. Let's talk. And so the rest is history.
So what happened in that conversation? What was the determining factor right then and there?
He was pretty blunt, pretty straightforward. Didn't try and sell me anything. I wanted to go infantry, and he said, "Absolutely, I can make sure you go infantry."
I'll bet. Yeah, because I don't think a whole lot of people are in line for that one.
So he was pretty straightforward. He said, "When would you like to go?" I said, "Well, as soon as I graduate. I want to leave that next day." And so I said, all right, I can make that happen.
Wow. Eager beaver.
So I still had a whole year of high school left. I actually turned 18 my junior year of high school. So I had a whole year. So went up there without my parents' permission because I was 18. I didn't need my parents' permission. So. And
how did that fly?
At first, it was really, it was not a happy conversation with my parents, but my whole family's military. So it goes back quite a few generations military. So once I explained that's really what I wanted to do, and this wasn't just a whim kind of deal, it was much better. Now they love it. They wouldn't have it any other way.
So you say there's a strong family tie to the military. What service was your dad in?
Navy. Uncle was Navy, grandfather was Navy, all the way back Navy.
Yes.
So I was kind of
Greg's Navy. Greg's that's great. Yeah.
I was the weird one in the family that went Marine Corps. So, and that was another whole thing.
So tell us about your experience in the Marines.
It was an interesting. I wouldn't change a thing. I enjoyed it. For the most part, I met a lot of great people. I did a lot of great things that not a lot of people can say they saw. There were some bad times, some things that I didn't particularly enjoy. But again, it made me who I am today. So I don't think I would change a thing.
Right. So what were the bad times for you?
I was an infantry unit and I was in the Marines. So we did see quite a bit of combat. We were in the first initial push in Iraq. So that was really our first, my unit's first experience in any sort of combat or anything else. And then same thing in Afghanistan. It was just with being in an infantry unit, it was very, we were a high pace, constantly deployed.
Right.
I didn't spend a whole lot of time in Lejeune. even though that's where I was actually technically stationed. We didn't stay there a lot. Most of the time we were deployed.
Right.
So it was, those times were a little bit rough, but I had a lot of good friends. We had a lot of good experiences.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that older veterans really don't understand is that when you're talking about post 9/11 veterans and the amount of deployments that they're on, that, like you said, you're stationed at Camp Lejeune, but you probably spent less time at Camp Lejeune overall than you did everywhere else because, that's what veterans from that era experience. It's not like, okay, I'm going to go to the war and stay in the war and then come back after a certain window. You just keep going back rotation after rotation.
Mm-hmm.
So what was your most memorable experience in the Marines?
I think graduation was probably one of the most memorable. It was one of those where a lot of people thought, because I'm a little bit of, when I joined, I was a little bit of a smaller guy, and I was in band in high school, and I'm like, really, you're going to join the Marines? So there was a lot of people that I don't think you're going to be able to do it. So when I finally graduated and received my Eagle, Globe, and Anchor at the graduation ceremony, it was kind of that moment where I was like, I can do anything at this point. So that was one, and just every kind of step through my time in the Marine Corps, it was just, there's so many, where it was like, wow, this is amazing. My first time on ship, when we're out in the middle of the ocean and you look out and you see your first sunset when there's absolutely nothing out there. It was, no words. Or looking up at the stars at night and there's no other lights, everything's right, and it's the brightest you've ever seen the stars. It was amazing.
It's a beautiful sight.
It is. It really is.
Was it the first time you've actually really seen the Milky Way?
Yeah. I mean, it was. Yeah. I've never seen the stars that vibrant.
Yeah, absolutely. For those of us who are city dwellers, it's the light pollution is really something else that you don't get to see that even sunsets, like you say, out there where there's no interference in the atmosphere to see.
The only thing that's different, and that is when you hit those swells far as out at sea. I was a Navy corpsman, so when we would go aboard a LST and we would hit those swells, a lot of people missed a lot of meals. There were involuntary fasting going on.
Yeah, it took a little while to get used to that kind of stuff, for sure.
Yeah. Now, Jeff, are you still in touch as far as with some of your old shipmates, or
we are?
We call them shipmates, but
Marines.
Marines.
Yeah, we are. We talk not as much as I'd like, but now we're all in our 40s. So we. Families and you get into that routine, but it's still, as soon as we start talking, it's like we never miss a beat. It's like we pick up right where we left off, and it's so we might not talk for a couple of years, but then as soon as we do, it's automatically we're right back into like nothing changed. Unfortunately though, with that, a lot of times it seems like when we do get together, it's because it's a tragedy. We've had one of our friends, commit suicide or something like that. So a lot of times, as bad as that sounds, it seems like anymore that's when we get together as a group, is usually through some sort of tragedy like that.
It's like family. You only get together during weddings and funerals.
It is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, Jeff, what were some of the most, I would say, important skills that you brought back from the Marine Corps, from your service?
I think resiliency is one for sure. I think that's a hugely important, trait to have. And I think the Marines definitely helped instill that in me. Just being able to, push through, and get the job done. That was a huge one. Just making sure accountability is another one. That's hugely important, I think, in anything we do, and just being respectful.
How was it when you came back into the world? Because a lot of times the military is a whole different world. Now you're coming back into the civilian world.
It was interesting. I got out in 2004, right toward 2004, 2005. And it was kind of during that transition period where, you would just be there 1 week and then you'd be out of the military the next. And now they still had like SEPs and TAPs. So you'd go through these kind of, but it was still in the infancy. Nothing was really, you can go if you want, but it's just you're going to be here longer. So now it's required where, you have to go through SEPs and TAPs. You have to speak to a VA rep. You have to do when I got out, it was kind of optional and they didn't really enforce it. So I think it was the transition period was kind of tricky for me. When I got out, luckily I had a really good support system, friends and family, and were able to help me a little bit through that. But it was definitely tricky. It was. I think I got back from Afghanistan. I was home at Lejeune anyway for 3 weeks, and I thought I was going to be able to coast out. And, all right, this will be great. And then I was told, well, no, we've got a new cadre of Marines that you're gonna go because we need guys with combat experience to kind of help work them up to be able to go. So I thought I was going to be able to kind of relax and do all that. No, but it was right up until I think 3-4 days before I got out. I was helping train new Marines that it just came to our unit. So it was a little bit, it was interesting.
Mm-hmm. If you can go back in time, what would you tell young Jeff?
Ooh, I'd probably tell myself to take care of myself better. So I don't hurt so bad at 40. I feel, snap, crackle, and pop every morning I wake up. So I probably would tell myself, just maybe stretch a little bit more and, drink more water.
Well, we're going to take another break now. When we come back, we'll hear more from Jeffrey and his story.
This is a message from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. If you were exposed to toxic substances while serving in the military, a new law called the PACT Act may make you eligible for additional benefits and care. The PACT Act benefits veterans of the Vietnam era, Gulf War era, and post-9/11 era who were exposed to toxic fumes, burn pits, Agent Orange, radiation, and other environmental hazards. Survivors of toxic exposed veterans and veterans who served in specific countries in Africa, the Middle East, and Southwest Asia are also potentially eligible. Learn more about the PACT Act by going to va.gov/PACT or by calling 1-800-MyVA411. We at VA are here for you, and we're ready to get you the care and benefits you've earned and deserve. I'm Mike Richmond.
And we're back with Marine Corps veteran Jeffrey Henderson. So, Jeff, you were talking about your Marine service and your combat duty, and supporting the efforts post 9/11. Tell us, if you could, your experience now that you're out, now that you're getting care through the VA. Have you filed a claim for benefits through the PACT Act?
Absolutely. I had some respiratory issues going on that, the VA's been great with taking care of me.
Did you know it was in relation to your service overseas?
Not really. It was one of those. I mean, who knows really what caused it initially? But now that the PACT Act has been signed, I think last August,
yes.
When all of that took place, it was like, wow, okay. And I work as a service officer for Greene County Veterans Office, and so we kind of knew that. I see the same kind of claims, so it's like, oh, okay, this makes sense that now it's on the list of presumptives for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for our listeners who may not know about the PACT Act, that was legislation that was signed by President Biden back in August of last year, and it is the Promise to Address Comprehensive Toxins Act, which it's not just for post 9/11. I mean, it goes all the way back to Korea, Vietnam, Agent Orange, et cetera, other issues or other opportunities of service that veterans have performed where they now might have a presumptive condition that is associated with their military service. And that's the big difference with the PACT Act for care through the VA, is that previously you had to have proof that your condition was connected to your service, hence the term service-connected disability. With this PACT Act, if you have a condition, it's presumed you got the condition through your service if you were providing military service. You were doing your duty in certain theaters of operation, and we encourage anyone who, like Jeff, has issues, may not even be enrolled in the VA, to actually go to the website. Go to www.va.gov/PACT. That's www.va.gov/PACT, and you'll see there the list of all the theaters of operation and all the presumptive conditions that qualify veterans for benefits through the PACT Act. And we really do encourage everyone. I'm sure that you, especially being a VSO, have that opportunity to tell those veterans who come in your office about that. How often do you talk to people who aren't even aware that option is there?
Yeah, all the time. We've run into it where, and usually it's that, and through our conversations as VSOs, we'll have a conversation. It's not even necessarily about anything PACT Act related or, exposure to Agent Orange, anything like that. We'll be having a conversation about a veteran ID card. Mm-hmm. And, through me just kind of talking with the veteran, we'll say something about, when I was in, here in Vietnam, and then I say, okay, well, tell me a little more about that. And then, so we start talking about other stuff. And then by the end of it, we might have 6 or 7 conditions that the veteran had no idea were related to exposure to Agent Orange. And then now we have a claim. And now we have something that the veteran can go to the Dayton VA and get seen for, potentially file a claim for, service-connected disability. I mean, so that it opens up the door to all, and they had no idea.
Right, absolutely.
Yep.
And while we talk here more about healthcare than anything else, that PACT Act actually opens up benefits far beyond just healthcare benefits. It's actually full benefits for veterans throughout the VA, but also survivors as well.
Correct.
So,
yep.
That's something we want to make sure our listeners are aware of. So, we highly encourage everyone to learn more about the PACT Act because it is so new. People still aren't aware of it, and want to make sure that every veteran is educated about that and takes that opportunity.
Jeff, how did you come about becoming a VSO?
Okay. So once I got out of the military, out of the Marines, like I said, I had a fairly decent support system. A lot of my friends didn't. That's the reason they joined the military in the first place. They wanted to get out of where they were. So when they got out of the military, they went back and they didn't have anybody. So I saw a lot of them struggle, and it wasn't that the resources weren't necessarily there, but they just didn't know how to connect to them. So there were a lot of factors that went into that. So I was like, well, I think I really I can do this. I have the means to help. I want my education to go that way. So I thought, okay, I can do this. I can be some sort of a veterans representative, whether it was through the VA or whatever. This is what I want to do. And kind of another weird just twist of fate. I was working at a place in Miamisburg, and I just happened to get an email that I don't even know how I got it, but it said something about Clark County Veterans Office. And I said, oh, that sounds really interesting. So I ended up looking at the job advertisement and said, you know what, I can do this. And I applied for it and got the job. And so through that, I realized my first week on the job, I realized this is what I want to do. This is absolutely, I get so much fulfillment helping veterans and their families that this is what I was meant to do. And so that's kind of how I got started. And I can't see myself doing anything different.
So what's the typical day for a veteran service officer?
Well, it depends. It's pretty varied. Sometimes we'll
probably never the same day.
It is. And with the PACT Act, it changed a lot too. Like we do see quite a bit of veterans that are inquiring about the PACT Act.
Yeah.
They might have heard about it, but they don't know a lot of the details. Or, they were at the VFW and, Bob that's sitting on the chair next to them, happened to mention something. And so it's kind of one of those where they'll come in and they'll say, hey, tell me about the PACT Act. Or it could be they know exactly what they're looking for. A lot of times, as you mentioned earlier, survivors. We'll see a lot of widows, widowers that, their significant other was in the military and passed away. And so they're inquiring about whether it's burial benefits or, actual survivors benefits like dependency and indemnity compensation, something like that. So it's kind of all over the place. I will say lately it has been mostly PACT Act, but by no means is that the only thing.
Now, Jeff, you have an event that's coming up also.
Yes, sir. So one of the things that over the past year and a half that we realized, it was kind of, COVID era really brought it to our attention. We realized there was a gap between what our office was able to provide and services through the VA or other community mental health providers. Oftentimes, through our conversations with veterans, we would uncover these conditions that a lot of mental health, where for years they had never discussed it with anybody, and then they're in our office and we're filing a claim for service-connected disability, and they divulge this information to us. Well, in the past, we would say, we would help them file their claim and everything, but we weren't trained to provide that mental health care or support. So we would say oftentimes, well, here's the VA's number. Call them and discuss it. Well, I'm a veteran. I know how it works. I'm not going to call that number. A lot of time, mostly, cool, thanks, great. And then I'd walk out of the office and that was the end of it. So I didn't like that. The staff at Greene County we didn't like how that was going. And that's not how we wanted. We wanted to be complete, care. So we initiated this program, our peer recovery support program. And originally it was like, okay, well, how can we help? How can we, the veterans in our community need something. What can we do to help that? And that was kind of the infancy of what our program is now. So over the course of a year and a half, myself and my partner at Greene County, Tim Penarts, came up with the Warrior Resiliency Team. And so the Warrior Resiliency Team mission is to provide support to service members, veterans, and their families in the highest time of need. So we're both peer recovery supporters. So if we have veterans that want to talk to somebody, we don't provide therapeutic care, but we will, help them get connected to those services. We've made really good connections with the Dayton VA, the mental health providers there. Wanda Thayne Ortiz has been instrumental in helping us, connect to those resources. So right now, we have a veteran that's in crisis. We can usually get them taken care of, relatively quickly. Whereas before, we really don't know where to send, how about you just drive out to the, now I can call somebody and get them seen relatively quick, at least have that warm handoff. So one of the big things that with the Warrior Resiliency Team is our kickoff event. We've finally gotten everything ready to go, and now we're having our launch event, which is going to be July 8th at Caesars Ford Park in Xenia. The event goes from 12 to 4 that day. It's going to be a big backyard barbecue. We're going to have backyard Olympics, prizes, food, stuff for the kids. So it's kind of an all, bring your whole family out, have a good time.
Sounds great. That sounds like a really good thing. So we're going to take another break now. When we come back, we'll hear more from Jeffrey and his story.
I was in the military. I didn't know that when I left, I was eligible for health care through the VA. I thought you had to be disabled or have been wounded. Another vet told me I should check it out. Now, I have the care I need at the Dayton VA.
Don't wait another day to see how the VA may help you.
I'm a vet, and it's my VA. Make it your VA today.
Call 937-268-6511, extension 2159 to enroll, or visit dayton.va.gov.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. If you're having a tough time or thinking about suicide, you're not alone, and there's hope. VA's Veterans Crisis Line has responders who listen and help. Many are veterans or have veteran family members and friends, so they're prepared to address your challenges. Don't wait. Dial 988, then press 1.
And we're back with Marine Corps veteran Jeffrey Henderson. So, Jeff, tell our listeners a little bit about your experience with the Dayton VA. You know, I know you worked very closely with them as a VSO, but tell us about your personal experience as someone who's received service from the Dayton VA.
Definitely. So I recommend the Dayton VA to all of my clients that come in, all the veterans I see. I've had nothing but great experiences at the Dayton VA. You know, they treat me for some service-connected conditions, that injuries I sustained while I was in service. And, you know, I'm not ashamed to admit, too, I've gone out there for their mental health treatment, and that's been instrumental in, you know, helping me to the point where I am now.
Very common for someone from your era of military service. More and more people are taking advantage of that service and those programs out there.
It's been great. You know, I tried and with different places in the community, you know, just various things. And I find myself always going back to the Dayton VA for that. And that's nothing but great experiences.
Right.
With them.
You know, you talked a little bit about, you know, your peers and suicide and mental health issues. And I think it's probably a good thing that we talk to our listeners about the fact that there are services out at the Dayton VA, but if there's anybody who's in crisis, they should also know that we have a new hotline to call, which is 988. All you have to do is press 988, and you can go directly to the suicide prevention hotline or mental health hotline. Anytime you need any help whatsoever, you just need somebody to talk to, just dial 988 because there are people there that understand the specific and very unique needs that veterans have, and especially when they're in a crisis like that. So encourage everyone to remember 988.
And we've used it a couple of times, you know, fortunately or unfortunately, however you look at it, but it's always been we've used it a couple of times and it has worked out great for.
It's unfortunate that there's a need for it, but it's very fortunate that it's there.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's been the few times we've had to use it, though, it's been amazing.
Yeah. So, you know, you talked earlier about the TAPS program, the Transition Assistance Program, and some other stuff that you had to go through or were highly encouraged to go through when you were departing the military. But it was not, like you said now, it's mandatory now, and it's not just encouraged. So veterans that are departing the military have a little bit more education about what the VA offers. But how did you find out about the VA?
I actually, through the Clark County Veterans Office, that's when I initially got started. One of the service officers up there, when I was a rookie, kept asking me every day if I had filed a claim or talked to anybody at the VA. And I said, no, I'm fine. You know, at the time I was, you know, in my 20s. I was like, I'm fine. I don't need any. I'm good. I'm fine. Every day he'd come in, and he was an old Marine machine gunner from Vietnam. And so every day I tell him, no, I didn't file anything. He'd find something in my office to throw at me. You know, luckily I didn't have a lot of hard stuff in my office. I kind of got smart about that. But so every day he'd come and, you know, did you file your claim yet, or did you talk to anybody at the VA? And no, I haven't done anything. So one day, finally, I just said, all right, I will sit down with me. We'll figure this out. So he sat down with me and we said, okay, here's where you need to go for this. You know? And I mean, that's great, because if I'm telling my clients to go in and do, I need to be able to walk the walk.
Sure,
so,
absolutely.
You know, I could tell them all about it, but if I hadn't experienced it, that's not
I would guess that that's a pretty common experience with veterans, that they are very resilient, self-reliant. You're taught to be that way in the military, and so you never say, "Hey, I need help," or "Oh, I need anything," especially when you're 20-something, because you are invincible.
Exactly.
But it's really good to have somebody like yourself or like your friend who kept going back and saying, no, you really need to take advantage of these benefits. You've earned it, dude. Go get it.
Yep.
So now that you had somebody make that effort, what is it about the Dayton VA that you find unique for veterans?
Well, they know veterans. That's one of the big things. When I was seeking primary care, like through civilian providers and stuff, nothing against them, but certain things I'd have to explain to them because they just don't understand it. I was involved in a IED, big explosion, got my bell rattled. And so having to explain that to my primary care doctor, who doesn't, a doctor is a doctor, but didn't really understand the whole experience with that. Whereas my VA doctor, she knew, because she's experienced it before and has been able to talk to those and kind of knew that, well, maybe we need to send you to this specialist, or that where it's, kind of with the other doctor, they don't really have much experience in that certain circumstance. But my VA doctor, who has, and not her first rodeo, knew, okay, well, here's where, let's get you with this doctor and we'll run these tests, and here's what I think needs to happen.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the things that, with your experience, what are some of the things that prevent young veterans from utilizing those benefits?
So I think what we've run into a lot with our office, kind of like what was mentioned before, is, well, there's other people that need it more than I do, which I know that excuse because I've used that too. And, but it's the same one I hear over and over. Well, those benefits are there. Registering at the Dayton VA actually helps, even if you don't plan on using it, which I don't know why you wouldn't want to use it, but even if you don't plan on using it, it helps the entire community. So I always recommend, even if you don't think you're going to use it, go register. Get registered for the Dayton VA. That's the most important part.
Absolutely. That's one of the common threads we hear when we're out in the field talking to veterans, is that's like, oh no, I'm good. I don't deserve it. Besides, they don't want to take those benefits away from other veterans. And what they don't realize is that that's how the VA gets its funding, is by the number of veterans it treats. So if you are not enrolling with the VA for health care, you're actually shorting the VA some funding from federal funding, because we don't have that number. We get a certain percentage or a certain dollar amount for every veteran that is enrolled. So if you're not using that, that money is actually going to other veterans, to care for other veterans. So yes, we keep telling other veterans, if you don't need it, great, still enroll for your fellow veterans.
Yep, exactly.
And do you feel that intimidation or that they may be a little intimidated about the process of enrolling?
Yeah, I think so. I think, it's kind of with veterans talk to other veterans. And,
that's a good thing and it's a bad thing.
Yeah, it is. Exactly. And there's, I don't want to say stereotyping with the VA, but a lot of times they'll say, well, I heard from so-and-so that it's horrible. Well, no, that, they might have had a bad experience, but you can have a bad experience anywhere. And I tell them my experiences. And I mean, very, very rarely is it something where there's been, multiple bad experiences. And once they try it and they say, you know what, this is amazing. I can go get my classes. I can go get my hearing aids. I can go get all of this right at one big facility, and they have everything there. So once they realize that, and I think that it kind of where they, kind of just try it. That's the biggest thing. And once they do that, they say, you know what, you're right. This is amazing.
Right. And it's not just the one facility. We actually have 4 VA clinics around the area too. So that makes it more convenient for folks. Sometimes you do have to go to the big facility here in Dayton, but there's also facilities out in Lima, Richmond, Springfield, and Middletown as well. For the convenience of our veterans.
And the community care too.
Absolutely.
I use community care for some of my conditions, and it's amazing.
Yeah. A lot of people won't go to the VA because they already have a primary care physician out in the community, and they're afraid that they're going to lose that community care. And that's not always the case. Sometimes you can continue specialty care out in the community. So yeah, if you're being treated for cancer, that might actually be treated off campus anyway, and might in your physician might be one of those physicians who actually are partnering with the VA. Well, thanks, Jeff, for joining us today. It was great to hear your stories. We love to hear stories like yours from veterans here in the Southwest Ohio region, and thank you for all that you do for the veterans in our community.
Oh, well, thank you very much for having me. It was my pleasure.
This is a message from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. VA Video Connect, VA's secure app for video visits, allows veterans to meet with VA healthcare providers on a smartphone, computer, or tablet. Veterans can invite up to 5 guests, such as a caregiver or family member, to attend their visit. Learn more by going to telehealth.va.gov. That's telehealth.va.gov.
The Dayton VA changed my life. There was a time I was jobless and homeless, didn't know where to turn for help. I felt like there was no hope for me. Then I learned about the Dayton VA. They helped me find the help I needed to get back on track. I received support, got a job, found a place to live. I got my life back.
Don't wait another day to see how the VA may help you.
I'm a vet, and it's my VA. Make it your VA today.
To enroll, call 937-268-6511, extension 5336, or visit dayton.va.gov.
We want to say thanks again to our special guests for taking time today to share their story. We truly enjoy hearing stories from veterans from across the region and learning more about how they found care through the Dayton VA Medical Center. And as always, we want to thank our listeners for joining us and remind them, if they are a veteran and are not enrolled, to enroll with the Veterans Health Administration to receive health care benefits through the Dayton VA Medical Center. It's easy and it doesn't cost a thing. You just need to be a veteran. The simplest way to start enrollment is to call our Enrollment and Eligibility Office at 937-268-6511, extension 4105. They can schedule an appointment for you to come to the Dayton campus or help make an appointment at one of the surrounding community-based outpatient clinics located at Springfield, Richmond, Lima, and Middletown. Again, that number is 937-268-6511, extension 4105. Veterans may also enroll by visiting www.choose.va.gov/health. While there, you can choose from applying online or by phone or by mail. It's just that simple, really. As I said before, it doesn't cost a thing to apply. So what are you waiting for? Call us today. Or if you know of a veteran who is not enrolled, have them call to start taking advantage of this benefit. If you're a veteran, it's your VA. Sign up today. Join us again for another episode of MyVA Dayton with the Dayton VA Medical Center. Our episodes drop the 1st and 15th of each month. I'm Scott Leese with your co-host Greg Tucker. Thanks again for listening to MyVA Dayton.